Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project, how the heck are you? The human experiment. Have you heard of it? Well, have you looked in the mirror lately? You might be a part of it. Well, yeah, you are. You know, your DNA and stuff. Now, here's the question, ladies and gentlemen. The DNA is not only our DNA genetically manipulated to fit certain agendas, but also everything that we see, everything that we, or many of us, maybe not the Leak Project, but for overall, the human culture and the aspects of reality, what most people see, what they eat, the way that they think, what they learn about in school, the technologies that they have access to, virtually everything. Is it controlled by a select few? And if so, how many? Well, those are all open for debate, but I certainly feel, and I have virtually my whole life. I mean, I remember talking about this before the internet was even the internet, I mean, before computers were even out there. It was like back in the day. And I was like, there's just something out there that controls virtually everything people experience. And we're going to talk about that today because Jay is a best-selling author, TRT Revolution. He's also the founder of Decoders of Truth, which is, I think, 30,000 plus at Facebook. And what's interesting is it's a 30,000 plus group, and it's also a private group. So having that many people that want to learn and get information, I think that that's very respectful, especially when it's, okay, you can't just be some goofy troll trying to mess with people. You really need to be a researcher and want information. And Jay does a pretty good job keeping things under control there, I feel. So I think a great job. But here's the thing. I am going to get into some very interesting tweets that Jay brought to my attention. We are going to get into this. A doctor that actually, like a forensic scientist, this gentleman. Now, I'm not going to say what the way that this person thinks. We're just going to kind of share some of the tweets that he's brought up and stuff. But he talks about how there's a clandestine faction, and he even uses the term Elohim, I think, in one of his tweets, talking about how there's these technologies that could literally turn mushrooms into synthetic leathers that are far superior to any leather that is available from an animal. But he's very intelligent. I mean, I'm on his website right now, best-selling author. He's written books that Jay has read, like Shadow Men, as well as the one that you just showed me, Jay, which looks awesome. And I haven't had a chance to read that, so you can talk about that as well. But then another thing, ladies and gentlemen, and then I'm going to turn this over to Jay. Jay just got back from China. And he actually took a nice vacation with his family. They had to stop in China for a 12-hour layover. And he was telling me some stuff that's like out of 1984 meets Hellraiser. It's, well, maybe not Hellraiser. I didn't see Pinhead or anything coming out of the wall, but it's definitely 1984 style. So he's going to share that with us. And Jay, it's just great to talk to you, man. It's been way too long. How the heck are you?
What's up, Rex, man? Again, honored, privileged, humbled always to be on the Leak Project. So proud of you. You're growing to over 250,000 subscriptions now on YouTube, which is a phenomenal accomplishment. Hats off to you. My tinfoil hat is on, but off to you. And thank you for this, by the way, too. Love this. Great fashion style. But yeah, you're right. I just came back from Thailand. I was there for 11 days with my wife, Monica. We did have 2 layovers in the Chinese airport in Guangzhou is how it's pronounced, or Guangyu or something. I can't even pronounce the word. And it was amazing. First I went to Bangkok, and I was in Phuket, which is the beautiful southern part of Thailand, the island portion. And we were everywhere. We were all over the island. I stayed in a 5-star resort with my wife in Karan Beach. Karan, they call it Karan Beach, and it's real close to Patong Beach. And then Patong Beach is above Patong Beach is Mandala. And it's just beautiful. And the Thai people are very sacred people. They're very, very traditional, spiritual. I wouldn't call them religious at all. They're very spiritual people. I mean, like literally when you talk to them, they bow. And they say, I think it's kamsala or whatever it is, which is like, thank you or how are you and stuff like that. I mean, they're amazingly humble and gracious people. And it's a very sacred, as I was telling you off air, it's a very sacred place. We went to temples. I spent an entire literally day and a half just visiting temples. We went to Big Buddha. We went to Washang. I mean, there's so many amazing like Buddhist temples throughout the countryside of Thailand that it's like amazing. And the difference, Rex, like being in the States, right, where we have all these 4G, 5G technology, dimersal and spraying and everything else around us. And then you go to this like, countryside island, tropical oasis. They don't have any of that. They don't have any, massive technology and all those things. You can tell the difference when you're walking around, like just like you feel less oppressed. You feel like, I don't know if the word spiritual or sacred is the right word, but like Thailand's beautiful because you're on an island and you have hills and rocky terrains and mountains in the north. And then in the southern part, which is where I was primarily, you have jungles, so it's very tropical. But it's also very green and very lush and almost like forest. So it's a beautiful ecological, wonder. And so just walking around there and just feeling that and meditating, and Monica and I tried to meditate almost every single morning that we were there. It's just different, man. I mean, it really is different leaving the States, leaving all this, electromagnetic frequency and all the stuff that we're constantly bombarded out, obviously in big cities of LA and where you are in San Antonio and around, and obviously all the other major, massively, populated cities and stuff like that, coastal population centers. It's just different. So it was a really good time for us to be there. Obviously we really enjoyed the people. The food is also tremendous. They cook very cleanly. It's very much stir fried. There's not a lot of, contaminants or nitrates. There's no GMO, none. I mean, like all their food is like, very clean, very cooked, very prepared. Sure. You can go to the 7-Elevens. That's their commercialization. They have 7-Elevens like on every corner. But as I was telling you, it's totally different than being over here. They also don't take any American currency. When you get there, you have to exchange American currency for their currency, which is the baht. It's BHAT. And the baht is, dude, it's insane. It's like 36 baht for $1. It's incredible. So it's so cheap. It's like I was telling you, you stay in a 5-star hotel and it's less than $20 a day. So it's amazing. But yeah, I mean, just to let you know, like what, if you want to ask questions for sure, but like just going from Thailand and going to China and like knowing what happens when you go to China, I don't think the majority of people, unless they've traveled to China, understand what it's like. People complain about being in the United States. You get off a plane to China, and the first thing that happens to you is they, usher you down the path to customs, and literally you're stopped. But I wouldn't call them security guards. They don't have weapons or anything like that. They definitely have belts and, obviously badges and clothing. And they make you go to this machine that most people see in customs, in any other major city, even with TSA in the United States. But then they make you put your hand down on the screen, all fingers, and then thumbs, and then eye, so retinal scan. And then you sit there and you wait for it to say, okay. And they're standing right next to you. So you're kind of like, I mean, both me and Monica, the first time we did it, when we got there, before we had, ever happened to us, we were prepared on the second time on the way home, but we were freaked out, man. I mean, it felt like an absolute violation of our privacy and our rights. I mean, I was like, why is this happening? I'm not a criminal. We're used to due process here. And again, it's a communist country. People do not understand that communist countries, you don't have any rights. It's a totalitarian regime.
And let me say something too, because, one of the things that I love about America is we have the right to at least express the majority of our feelings, to the public. And there's certain things that obviously, from previous experiences, I mean, if you look throughout history, that it's like, okay, we have a right to freedom of religion, freedom of press for the most part. But sometimes things get so out of hand that the press, if you go to the mainstream media, much of that press is a part of the same, it's part of the same bucket of information. And how much is that information influenced? How much is it controlled? Well, then you try and get it in the alternative media. And then the mainstream media will label that as fake media, when oftentimes you can throw it right back at them. But it's amazing, but it's also difficult. You have to know how to discern. You have to know what to look for. You have to be able to trust your guts and your instincts. But we are in an amazing time. And let's talk about China for a minute, because as much as we complain about things here sometimes, it's still, in my opinion, the best place to be. And by far. And going to China, I think, kind of put that into perspective for you also. I have no desire to go there. I have no desire to fly. You're telling me about the flight you had to take and how ridiculously long it was. You won't even get me on a plane for an hour, let alone 32 hours. I don't want to go through the naked body scanners. I don't want to take off my shoes and let them, do a naked body scan on me and retinal scan, whatever else I think they're going to do. I'm not going to do it. Matter of fact, they tried to get me to do that in 2013, the last time that I flew. They tried to get me to go through the naked body scanner. And I'm like, no, thank you. And so, they patted me down or whatever. And like, do you want to go into a room so we can pat you down? I'm like, no, you can just do it right here. That's fine. And they were cool. And then, but at the same time, it was like, whatever, really. But I digress. I divagate. But so we're in amazing times right now. You go to China, and let's talk about this for a minute, because China right now is going to be implementing 250 something million CCTV cameras. They've got a social credit system now that's combined with not only credit score, financial credit score, what they've said on the net, who they've talked to, what they've done, their personality scores. There's businesses out there that literally read people's brain waves that decipher the way they're going to work. Okay, does that person need a break? Does that person need to do something else? Is that person aggressive? Is that person getting enough sleep? It's all there. And I mean, it's getting pretty intense out there. And so talk more about not only you had to go give your prints, but then you had the 12-hour layover. And then what do they try and do?
Well, yeah. So it was fascinating. I'll give you the story. I'll try to do the 100,000-foot version. So we got there, as I told you, our first flight was canceled. So, got the call because everything was arranged through Expedia a long time ago when we did this trip. And, Expedia is very good. Give them mad props. They called us like a day in advance and they said, hey, look, your flight's been canceled, but we found you another one. But unfortunately, you're going to have a 12-hour layover in China to get, direct flight back to Los Angeles. So, we were kind of like, wow, that sucks. But we had such a good trip. We're like, hey, it is what it is. We're blessed to be able to make this trip. A few people can do this, so whatever. So when we got to the airport, we were already tired. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, China time. And the Chinese gal at customs, before we were going to go through to the main port of the airport, was like, oh, you have 12-hour layover. She spoke good English. She said, you can go to the free hotels. You just have to go and get a visa. And we're like looking at, my wife, Monica, looks at me. I look at her. I'm like, what do you mean a visa? And they're like, oh, it's very simple. We just walk you down there and you have to go to customs and they'll fill out a visa. And I'm like, wait a minute, my flight's in 12 hours. You want me to leave, have to come back in, go through security, do all the stuff that we're used to doing, and then, prove that I was in China overnight for a reason that I don't really have a reason. So we both were just like, nah, pass. Right. So we went through and we went on the airport. We ended up sleeping. Thankfully, we actually found some chairs that leaned back. And so we just, tried to pass out and waited but as I was telling you, like being in a Chinese airport, well, let me first go back, dude. And I know you know this because you've heard about this. So China has built out these massive, bro, the ceilings in this airport are 100 feet high. Okay. You're walking through this stuff and you're like, what in the world is going on in these things? They look like gigantic aircraft carrier Harriers, like underground base type stuff where they've got like giant planes like being moved in and out of here. Because it's like, wait a minute, this is just people. This is a normal, civilian airport. Why are they so big with all this concrete, all this technology? It's crazy. And so you're walking through this airport and you're seeing all this like overbuilt, modern architecture. And you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Because it's not like you have that many people in there. I mean, I expected to see like masses of people, but again, we were only there short term. And when we were there long term, we were in the middle of the night. So obviously there wasn't, high traffic time. But walking around trying to find food, Rex, dude, again, you hit the nail on the head. We do not, in living in Western country, especially like America, we do not understand what they eat is just disgusting. And again, I'm not like bad mouthing them or besmirching, Chinese people, whatever. Their culture is different. Their customs are different. But dude, like their snacks are like crickets. I mean, like, bags of like smoked. It's nasty, right? I mean, like most people in the United States would not be able to go to a convenience store in China and buy anything on the shelves. It's literally disgusting. I mean, it's like, and then Monica bought food at Burger King, right? So they have a Burger King, they have a Subway, they have a McDonald's in there. And she bought me the sandwiches. And I told her, dude, don't get me a sandwich. I don't trust the meat. And I don't know what's on it. And she's like, oh, it's fine. They have like a barbecue sauce. I took one bite of the burger, spit it back into the thing, wrapped it up, walked over and dude, I did not complain. I will eat anything. You give me sawdust and I'll eat it. I mean, it was that nasty. And Monica was like, delirious because she hadn't slept for 8 hours. She couldn't sleep. She's one of those people that can't sleep without being in a bed. So she bought a grilled chicken. I had walked over to throw mine away, Rex, because it was so nasty. And by the time I got back, I was like, where's your chicken? And she's like, oh, I took one bite and I had to throw it out. So again, dude, the point is, if you're complaining and you live in the United States, it could be a lot worse. Very serious. It could be a lot worse because we could barely find anything to eat while we were there. I mean, thankfully we had packed our backpacks with snacks and we had, had gotten a lot of nuts like cashews and stuff like that while we were in Thailand. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to buy anything in a Chinese airport. Nothing. I mean, they don't even have like Diet Cokes.
aspartame, genetically modified E. coli feces. Yeah, Diet Cokes, man. I'm like, okay, Diet Coke or thirst quench. I would have to be so thirsty to drink it, but hey, if I was thirsty enough, I definitely would. I must admit.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough enough just to get water, as I was telling you. Like you go into the convenience stores and they have like this tiny little section, these tiny little water bottles, and it's just like, huh?
Well, let's go back to the airport experience, Jay, because I'm attempting to put myself in that scenario, and it's spooky just thinking about it. You are on the other side of the world. You're
Yep.
in a communist government in a nation that right now there's some tensions going on with all the trade tariffs and such. So you get there, you find out you got a 12-hour layover. They immediately escort you to get your fingerprints and such. But then when you've got the computer there, and it's like you're this is like something out of a science fiction movie, man. It's here, ladies and gentlemen. You don't think it's here yet? It's here right now. It's right here. It's right in front of you. And if you're in China, oh, you're living it. And I'll bet you China overall, as far as they've got a very tight grip on the information that's going through China right now. And there's a reason. Like when Jay, when you brought up the airport and the size of the airport and the mindset, it's a group hive mind. And this is making me think of the shadow faction. This is going to be a perfect segue into what is out there controlling and manipulating these things. And there's got to be stuff that we don't see with our physical eyes that are controlling things. I have been through this incredible experience ever since uncovering the Enochian keys when I did this one specific call of the 48 ethers. And since then, it literally has brought multiple apocalypses in my life, meaning the unveiling of certain egos. And it's we're not in Kansas anymore. And if you are, you're not. Hello.
Now, well, you know what? It's funny. Like just getting back to the size, you get the feeling, and obviously you and I are woke people and we're woo woo and all these other things, and we have our hats, but you get the feeling as you're walking through these places that they really were trying to keep up with the Joneses, but not keep up, but outproduce us. Again, the whole McMansion, the oversized, the supersized, like they were like in some weird way, like the communist regime is trying to like overdo everything to outperform the Westerners, the Gaijin. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm telling you, you're walking through this airport and you're looking around and you're like, what in the world? It's like they built them for like 35-foot Anunnaki or something. I mean, I'm serious. It doesn't make any sense, and obviously I know you and I have talked about this before. They have all these cities in China that they built that are unpopulated, that they cost billions of dollars to produce. And then obviously to continue to power and electrical and all that stuff. And there's no one living there, like ghost towns. So it's like, what is going on, with the money that they're building these giant oversized, quote unquote cities and airports and all of this infrastructure. And by the way, it's very modern. It's ultra modern. A lot of the stuff was like hands controlled and not eye control, but what do you call it? With the bathrooms, like you go like this and it flushes. So, I mean, again, it's super tech, but I don't understand it, bro. I mean, people in China don't have money. They're not like a massive capitalist society where all this like free trade and money is being made. So where does the money come from? It must be currency manipulation.
Well, I mean, that's one of many aspects to it, Jay, and you're bringing up some great points. Like, what are they doing? It's like the ego factor as well, though, for the ancient tombs and sarcophagus of an Egyptian pharaoh that might be 10 feet. And you might think, hey, is a Nephilim in there? Is it a giant, or is it just a giant ego? Well, you have to open it to find out. And it could be either or. It could be, definitely either or. So we may never know.
That would be funny if they were engineering for the future, bro.
Well, hey, let's talk about that.
Basis.
Let's talk about it. Because we brought this up before. We both talked about this, Jay. Okay, so are we the original artificial intelligence? Yes. Artificial isn't what you think it is, though. We were created as the original robots. And for people out there that say, well, why didn't the Anunnaki or the creators, if you can call them the Elohim, you can call them the Anunnaki, you can call them the Archons, just don't call them late for dinner because they might get a little upset when they get hungry. So, but other than that, if you get to the overall mindset of them creating us and reading these ancient tablets and stories and mythos, and it's throughout the world, especially if you go back to ancient Mesopotamia. So they created humans to do the work for them. Right. So they used biology. And if you look at DNA now, they're taking DNA and using it as servers for storage. Right. You can store up to, they're now saying they can put over 4.5 exabytes of information in 1 gram of DNA. That means that in 2017, the internet produced over 10 exabytes. So if you took 2 grams of human DNA and was storing all that data, you could do it in a cube that was about 2 grams. You could take all the information on all the movies ever recorded and store it in a cube, a sugar cube, with DNA. Right. So where am I going with this? DNA is superior, but I think there's firewalls in place, and this genetic manipulation, which we're once again segueing into anything they can do, whether it's food, whether it's, oh, you're not feeling too good. Oh, okay, well, we've got something for that. Then you take this and it gives you another element. It gives you another dis-ease, some type of side effect. And, Jay, that's one thing that you're really good at, man, is you definitely are, you work out a lot, you eat right, you watch what you eat, you take certain supplementation and stuff like that. And you make sure that your temple is at the apex. And a lot of people would put more money into their kitchen sink. Literally, they'll buy a kitchen sink for more than what they're putting into their temple, but they get lied to a lot. And, these industries out there that make billions of dollars and they're supposed to offer solutions, and maybe they do for a short time, but what is the cost of that solution? How many side effects of that solution? So when are we getting into this natural and organic and situation where we can take technology, Jay, and use it with nature? Use the two together. We have a choice. You say, okay, you can choose left or right. Well, or you can choose the Democrat side, or you can choose the Republican side. Well, why can't we take the best of both? Why do we have to pick a side? We don't.
No. It's true about what you just said too, not to segue too strong here, but the body, going back to what you said about the firewalls, listen, we know that 90% of our DNA is turned off, but there's so many people in the scientific community that talk about how it's junk DNA, which is laughable. It's not junk DNA because you don't understand it. It's turned off. It's just like you said, it's firewalled. It's whoever our progenitor race was, and I'm sure there were multiple progenitors, the Anunnaki, the Elohim, like you said, there's so many different names, so many different cultures. And who knows, before that, right? Because we're just talking about now, and now being like the last 13 or 15, 20,000 years, whatever. We don't have any idea. They still don't understand how old the Sphinx is, Rex. And they're still finding temples all over the world, pyramids all over the world. They just found a pyramid. I don't know if you saw, it was actually in the mainstream news. They found a pyramid in not Peru. Where was it? It was another South American country. It doesn't matter where it was. That they cannot age. And at the bottom was a language that is also pre-Akkadian. They can't date it. And so it's like, like you and I have talked many times before, this is a giant zoo. As Charles Fort said, it is a village of the damned. We have absolutely no way to know, due to being engineered, as you said, being firewalled, or due to just having programmed amnesia. You know what I mean? Of like, we come into these biosuits, these meat modems, as our buddy Gerald would say, and avatar bodies, and we engineer them, and probably the beings that created us can come in and walk into us too. I mean, we don't know, Rex. I mean, it's mind blowing, to see all of this stuff and try to figure it all out. But, to your point about your temple, that's where people really get confused. I've done a lot of shows with Jeff Doherty in the last 4 weeks, a couple shows before I went to Thailand, and now 2 since we've gotten back. And we're constantly talking about that. And as you know, Jeff has completely changed his life and turned it around from a health standpoint. He's lost 50 pounds. He's become really big into fasting, and, got him hormonally optimized and stuff like that. He's a completely different guy now. And so he's really big on pushing physical optimization, and equating it with spiritual optimization. And he, massively believes now that because he's so physically dialed in and optimized, he's able to receive more downloads. And obviously, me, I've been saying that for 4 years.
I want to make a comment on that, because I had an opportunity to hang out with Jeff at the Brushy Mountain State Prison that was shut down about 10 years ago, that housed some of the most infamous criminals in the world, and very hardcore violent criminals. And man, just taking myself back there, and the energy that I felt, I could certainly feel the mojo. And there's even certain areas that I would walk past, because I'm a kinesthetic person more than visual or auditory. I would definitely say kinesthetic. I can feel things more than, sure. But anyway, we're going past certain areas, and I'm like, okay, I could just feel something right here. And then they would as well. But I wasn't like I was scared. I was never scared in there. And I was going through places that were like something out of the film Saw, literally meets Hellraiser on steroids. I mean, meets Silence of the Lambs. There was this one place that housed the electric chair for a short while. And I walked around that area and I didn't know that at the time. And when I walked past it, I said, I'm getting the Silence of the Lambs vibe here. And it was this glass windows and it was like the dew on the inside of the glass windows and stuff like that. But if you're of a certain mindset, I think you can be in certain areas and you're not necessarily going to, it's the vibrational thing. You're picking up the magnetics, you're picking up the energy and such.
But Rex, you're not a fearful person. And so either am I. So those kind of things aren't going to make us afraid.
Right. But what I was going to say though, is I was kind of going off on a tangent, and thanks for stopping me there, because I wanted to go back to Jeff there for a minute. Because Jeff, at the time when I was hanging out with him, he was on a several day fast and he had lost a bunch of weight. And, you know, he was looking a lot better from, you know, when I had seen him.
He looks amazing, dude. Yeah, I mean, you look at his videos from 7-8 months ago to now, he looks like a completely different person.
He does. And I was just going to also bring up, there was a part there when Jeff and I were walking around together, and all of a sudden Jeff goes, "Whoa, did you feel that? Did you see that?" And he goes, "Did you see that?" And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Did you see that, that black shadow that was like darker than the night that just went in between my legs?" And I was like, "No." But then we went back, and we talked to some people that were in one of the rooms. I think it was the cafeteria there. And they were doing this tour as well. And they were talking about this ghost there that actually it's like as a gimp, you know, it's a cripple ghost that walks around, crawls around on its arms. And when he was talking to me about that, he was saying, "Did you see that?" And we went back and we're talking to the people about what happened. And then one of the guys there, I think his name's Glenn, real nice guy. He was the one that actually invited us out there. Thank you, Glenn. If you're watching this, he wants to go do this again. And if you can come out there, that'd be cool too, Jay. But he takes a picture, right? He takes a picture of us when when Jay was telling the people about what he saw outside, that guy run between his legs. And as he's talking about it, guy takes a picture of me and a few other of us. You can see this thing. It looks like he's looking at my crotch upside down.
Literally right.
And I was like, What the? So what you're saying about eating right, being healthy, and downloading more information and just seeing things that you might not normally see because the stuff in the food that's blocking certain parts of your DNA, you're hitting the nail right on the head, man. That's awesome.
I'm glad you put that together, because I haven't really said it in that way, but that's exactly what it is. So the GMO food is literally staying in our cells. It's not clearing, because obviously, again, it's not God made. You know, as my good business partner friend Jim says, you know, whenever he gives people nutritional advice, he says, if God didn't make it, you probably shouldn't eat it. Right. But it's just exactly what you said.
There's still a lot of stuff God makes that you don't want to eat too. It could be just as deadly.
There's the engineering of the food, without getting into the details, is leaving byproducts, chemical residue, particulates, esters, all these different things that they go in to engineer the food to make it longer shelf life, to make it, you know, longer, freshness, whatever. It's bad, Rex. I mean, and the crazy part, I don't want to go off on a tangent either, but the crazy part is that because I'm so connected to the medical community and the doctors and stuff like that, and I see studies a lot all the time now, I definitely can tell you for a fact, this is not hearsay, this is not conspiracy theory. Monsanto and Bayer now have a huge army of paid lobbyists who suppress the research. So as soon as something comes out that proves that GMO food is a contaminant, is causing cancer, is doing this, blah, 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 it's completely suppressed. It's pushed down. It's kept out of the mainstream. They pay people off. Doctors are paid off. I mean, you cannot believe research scientists are paid off. I mean, again, to keep the narrative that GMO is healthy, that GMO, you know, does all this stuff and feeds the universe and gives more people access to food, which we know is a sham, because human beings only inhabit 17% of the planet, right, from a physical geography space. So it's all BS about that. You know, they're constantly giving us that GMO allows all these people in poor, impoverished countries like Africa to eat. It's nonsense. Okay. These things are absolutely positively causing issues. They're altering DNA. Now that is the biggest point. I just did a podcast about a month and a half ago with a guy who's writing a book on childhood obesity. And he has all of the research, Rex, about what the GMO food is doing at a cellular second and third generation level, which is, again, where our kids are. Because let's face it, you and I know this, GMO started in the late 80s. Okay, that's when engineered food started, was in the late 80s. And so now, if you're
with a bunch of chemicals, just because I know if you don't add that extra thing there, they'd be, oh, you can go back to the thousands of years they've been modifying to.
Right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The stuff that basically the foods that were made for microwaves, right? So, but he's got the research and he's showing what's happening to kids. And I can just give you a couple things, but like he was showing me X-rays, and this podcast hasn't run yet, but he was showing me X-rays of young men, 15 and 16 years old, who have third-degree compound bone fractures from running around on the street. Because again, their bone mineral density is being jacked up from these GMO, like again, altering DNA, altering the ecosystem through epigenetics or cellular, changes. Like I said, second and third generation. So we're getting to the point now where there's so much coming out from a research standpoint that's now being suppressed. Because remember, and you already have said this many times, and we're one of the first people to say this, GMO is one company now. Bayer is GMO. They own the entire planet. They own everything. If you go and you look at the parent corporations, Bayer owns Monsanto, and Monsanto owns Kellogg's, and down and on and down forth. So it's like one corporation makes all the engineered food. So they are suppressing all the data. And so no one really knows what's really going on. But if you have access, again, to PubMed, you're in the research community, and you have friends, they can kind of say, well, before this got pushed to the bottom, look at this. But it's even hard to find it on PubMed because they bury it there too. It's pretty Machiavellian, dude.
Well, it's interesting because I just had an opportunity to drive through certain parts of Idaho when I went up into Yellowstone, and absolutely gorgeous. Idaho is amazing. Love the state. There's not a lot of people there. It's, if you're looking for a place that's relatively affordable, not a bunch of people, good elevation, Idaho's awesome. I don't want to give too much away though, because Idaho might get mad at me. But when I was out there, I was, in an area that's just gorgeous. And I'm talking to Kristen, and I'm like, isn't this nice? And she's like, yeah. And then moments later, Monsanto headquarters, and we're like, oh yeah, we're just like we start like going in convulsions. No, I'm joking about the convulsions thing, but man, it just thinking to myself. Oh, and then you could see all the fields that they had and how like the green. Sure, the fields are bright green, like this different colored green. It's not like the natural type color that I'm used to seeing. It was more like this artificial green. Yeah, it's going to be green, but the question is, how many chemicals are you going to use to offset nature? Because if you really break it down, as a company that develops chemicals to put on crops to either get rid of the insects or get rid of the disease, herbicides, et cetera, that they can use, I understand why it's done. The question is, how far do you go and how many synthetic compounds and carcinogens are you going to use to say, okay, well, we can hire less people because now there's not as many crops that are going to get eaten by certain insects. Because here's the thing, I've talked to farmers that have actually done both. They've worked in the fields with all the chemicals, and then they actually got so sick and so ill from working so long in the fields, they had to go do a complete detox. And after that detox, they couldn't go back and be around those chemicals because their body got rid of it. Their body, those. So the point is, when I talk to these farmers that went from pesticides and herbicides and using all these chemicals and GMOs and GMO seeds to using organic seeds, using product without the herbicides and pesticides, et cetera, natural agriculture, the crops are healthier. The crops are thicker. And when they were doing the chemical stuff, even though, yes, there may be less insects one year, it also the next year might cause other problems that become more expensive. So it's like this offsetting thing. And then it depletes the nutrients in the dirt and the soil. And it's a global pandemic, man. And the United States of America, as amazing of a country as we are, we have some of the most lax laws and corporations allowing them to put whatever, virtually, it seems to me, in my opinion, oftentimes, just about anything they can, as long as they can get it approved into the product, and they'll say, oh, it's cheaper. But Jay, do you ever wonder when you look at a label on something and you see that there's 50 items in that label that come from all over the world, and then you look at another product that's got 3 or 4 ingredients on the same label that's local, and it's twice the price as the stuff on the other side. And then, yeah, I get it. They're buying lots of product. They're a huge corporation, so they get it in bulk. But here's the thing. Do you ever wonder if maybe they're kind of working in conjunction together, these big corporations like you brought up earlier. This company buys this company. Okay, this company has a branch off, and they can go buy that company, and oh, well, we don't really have anything to say about it because we've got a different, chain of command over there, and board members and such. But maybe it's all kind of funneling into this system, and then this system is these clandestine controllers. Like what you saw in China, man, that must have just really spooked you out. Like, okay, access denied. Like, what would you do? Let me ask you this. Let's go back to your moment in China there, and you actually left.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, well, now you've got to get a visa just to go back, just for 12 hours. Within 12 hours, you get some sleep, and you got to get a visa, right? In 12 hours? Talk about that. Like, what would you do? Do you think they would take you if you didn't get, like, do you think that they could have, I'm not saying that they would, but they could have kept you there indefinitely and questioned you and said, oh, well, gee, you've questioned us before. We saw your Decoders of Truth channel or something like that.
Right. Well, I mean, all of that flashed. Let me go back further though. Like when we first got there on the first flight to go to Thailand, we were all in a great mood. We get off after this incredibly 15-hour flight. And by the way, China Southern Airlines was amazing. No complaints, actually good food, 2 meals. It's a 15-hour flight. Hot, good meals, awesome television in the TV. We flew economy, or, in the middle between business and economy, whatever that is. So we could lay back somewhat. But it was good. So there's no issues. But then you get off the airport, you're in, Guangzhou airport, and you walk up, and then boom, your hands are down and they're standing next to you. That was very nerve-wracking. And again, I am not a fearful person, and nothing ever can scare me at all. It's just a choice of my life. I'm not scareable because of all the inner work I've done. But, I had one of my buddies say something to me about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, about one of his friends had a criminal record. And I can't remember, something came up in an international airport. He was like, yeah, man, they wouldn't let him get on the plane. And they didn't arrest him or anything, but they're like, you can't get on our plane. So it's like that flashed into my head as I was sitting there, right? Because my story. I mean, I do have a record, but it's been suppressed. It's been, they're all false charges and everything's been knocked off, but you don't know. And you know that it always stays there. There's always that blot. So I had that weird thought come into my head as I was doing that, waiting, as they're standing right on the sides of you. There's 2 people. Monica's behind me, so she's next. It was weird. So, it said, okay, it flashes, okay. And then a literally little white piece of paper pushes out of the screen, dude, or pushes out of the machine, and it says, okay. And you pull it, and it tears, and you hold on to it, and then you take that to customs. I'm not kidding you. And then Monica had to do the same thing. But, dude, China got my DNA. I mean, they have a full print of who I am. They have all my fingerprints. They have my eyes. They have my thumbs. And it was at least a minute on each. So they were full on, matching me. And that was bizarre, and then to the story of like, we knew we're not stupid. We're woke. There was not a chance in hell we were going to go out of that airport, get a visa. And she's trying to explain it to me that, it's simple, no problem. It's 20 to 30 minutes over there. And you're like, we're looking at each other like, yeah, right. We'll take the red pill, get us into the airport, and we'll go to sleep somewhere. I was ready to sleep on the ground. I was so tired, but yeah, dude, it's pretty interesting. I mean, there was no way in hell we were going to go into China, dude. Not a chance. We had no purpose of being there. We had no, port of entry or port of exit. We didn't have a vacation planned. We have no reason to be there. So you're right. I mean, going into there, getting a visa, and then trying to come back, you're taking a huge risk. Huge.
Well, and Jay, do you think that they could have also, here, stay at this hotel right here, and they could have a hotel completely under clandestine surveillance?
Or just rob us blind. And I did have some, American currency on me. So yeah, I mean, that never came into the thoughts, but I mean, literally, I looked at Monica, she looked at me, and we just shook our head instantly. It was like the internal knowing of us was like, not a chance. Not a chance. No way. It's a communist country.
Do you think that next time you fly over and take a vacation on the other side of the world, you can avoid going through China? You're going to look for a way to not have a 12-hour layover?
It's a good point. And both of us said that there's no way we would ever do it again. That was it. It was a one-time shot to go to Thailand unless I fly on a G5 and my businesses explode, and I'm, flying private. There's no way. I would never do that ever again. It's not worth it. It's just absolutely not worth it. And again, I have no complaints about, flying to China. The plane was amazing. The people on the airline spoke very good English. It was very good. You know, they're very catered towards Westerners. No issues at all. Food was excellent. Great service. The plane was amazing. But China airport, totally different story.
So maybe for the next, and thank you for sharing this, Jay. I mean, this is great information. I really appreciate you sharing some of this personal, stuff with us, because it is personal. So that's really cool of you. And now the whole world knows. But hey, this gives people an opportunity to know what they're looking forward to. Maybe next time they go to China, this is what you might have the opportunity to look forward to.
Well, dude, I can't believe that nobody ever told me that they
That's
do
weird.
the handprint things. That was absurd. And by the way, it wasn't just me and her. We watched everyone. I mean, it was everyone who was not a native Chinese person had to go into that deal. So they are
non-natives. It was non-natives.
Oh yeah, no, it was everybody that was a non-Chinese citizen had to go through their deal. So I don't know what they're, and maybe you and I are being reactionary, and maybe they are looking for criminals or Interpol wanted.
Well, of course they are. Of course they are.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
going to be all. I mean, of course they're looking for criminals.
But they don't do that in the United States. We both know that they don't do that in the United States. They may suspect, like, it's secondary and third, and tertiary when you're in customs after you go all the way through. But you got to be, again, innocent until proven guilty, or guilty until not proven innocent. I mean, I don't know, but this was just bizarre, dude. It was absolutely as Big Brotherish, as Orwellian as anyone could possibly imagine. And it came out of the blue. And there's no warning. I mean, there's nothing, they don't give you a piece of paper like you do when you go to Mexico or South America. You're going into customs, write this down. They don't even do any of that. So it was an amazing experience. Blessed to be able to do it, but definitely bizarre, and definitely wouldn't do it again. No way.
Let me ask you this, Jay. Do you think that could bleed over into the Western nations as well? Do you think that Europe could be, nations in Europe could be next? Do you think that America could be next? What's your gut telling you, and what's your mind telling you? Are they telling you the same thing?
Yeah,
and welcome.
Just like you said on the show.
It's because they love us, Jay. It's because they love us so much, dude. Come on. They love us. They love us. They put genetically modified E. coli feces in soda, and they say that it's good for you instead of bleached sugar. So they love us. We'll leave it at that. They love us so much.
Our kids.
Well, let's do this. We're supposed to talk about happy stuff, and you're going off on a rampage about
happy stuff. Go back. Happy
beyond
stuff.
beyond our pay grade anyway. So let's talk about what we can do on a bright note here. Like we were talking about orgone energy, thinking of how to actually make a difference and a win-win situation, how to bring us into a higher level of consciousness and be the change that we need to see.
Look at that, man.
That's awesome.
Amazing. Literally amazing organite pyramid sent to me by my good friend Jason. It's right by my router in my office here in my house, and I have 500 megabits up and down. What do you call it? FiOS. So it's direct connect, massive bandwidth through my whole house. I have so many kids and people that are coming by, and we have meetings once a week here with my real estate team. So there's a lot of people globbing bandwidth. But I got this right next to the tower in my office, and so I tell people, like, real organite, it smells soothing. It's kind of like a eucalyptus, almost petroleum like mixture, but I don't know what it is, but it's amazing. It smells soothing. But whenever I get stressed out, dude, I swear to God, I literally just go right to this and I just meditate. I do some visualization for about 30, 45 seconds, depending how much time I have. And I put it down and it just completely clears me right up. This is amazing. You can get these on Amazon, and I'll send you the link. So they're not even expensive, but you can get like this and like 3 other pieces for like 70 or 80 bucks. And by the way, this construction is amazing. I mean, you could definitely injure somebody with this. It's a weapon. I mean, it's awesome. And it's construction, it sits flat. But it's just beautiful, dude. It's so amazing. Orgonite is such a powerful thing. I mean, I'm sure you've talked to people about Orgonite and Wilhelm Reich and all that. Yeah, you got your own stuff. There you go.
This one's pretty cool. This one actually has a radon coil.
Even better.
And it's got a frequency generator, so you can adjust the frequencies on it. You just need to plug it in. And yeah, I mean, it's cool. I remember when I first got it, the energy was so high that I don't know if it was just, my mind playing tricks on me or if I was really feeling it, but I felt that I was really feeling it. Now, as far as the EMF levels, I mean, I don't think it's really going to stop 5G or anything like that, but I have noticed it's got a very positive effect. The dreams are incredible. The energy is incredible. It's like that feng shui thing. You can take shapes and there's a lot more than just the shape of this though. I mean, this coil specifically inside of here, and then it's got a quartz crystal. Yours is built with a lot of the orgonite materials as well that this is, and it's really good. I mean, they've done a lot of testing with this stuff, and there's some amazing benefits not only for human beings but also for the environment. And there's a lot of good things that orgonite can do, and that's important. Maybe one thing we could do, Jay, also is just pick up some what are those, like orgone pucks?
Yeah, I have those too. Pucks? I've got those too. Yeah.
Okay. And and put those around our house or something like that, or put those just to kind of give the vibe.
Yeah, it smells so good, dude. It's like, I'm telling you, it's like a really smoothing thing. And then I don't know if you've had these guys on your show, but you definitely have to get them on. And if you haven't been introduced to them through Jeff or me, I will introduce you to them. But the guys that do the focused life force energy, are you familiar with that?
No, please.
Okay, I got to connect you with them. So one of the things we were going to talk about was obviously solutions, raising your awareness. And, this is Dr. David Hawkins' greatest book, The Eye, Reality and Subjectivity. Very deep stuff. If you haven't read Hawkins yet, Rex, I'm sure you're familiar with him, but if you haven't read his books, you have to. This has changed my frequency so much in the last 6 months since I really got into this. I'm coaching with a guy who was a disciple of Dr. David Hawkins. And for some of your people that are watching right now, like if you don't know who Dr. David Hawkins is, he was a real live spiritual avatar. Like he literally was touched by the presence. You guys have heard the story of Eckhart Tolle. You've heard some stories of other people that were, the presence came into their life and then they became like a spiritually enlightened being. Well, this guy was a spiritually enlightened being, but his story is a little bit more fascinating because he was a narcissistic New York City, money-driven psychiatrist who had a massive practice of, Wall Street tycoons. And he got sick in his late 30s. Brilliant guy. So he was already like a brilliant left brain guy, but he was an atheist. And he got sick and he was near death and God came into his life. Literally, he calls it the presence. He doesn't want to offend people that are not religious, but he, came into his life. And then he wrote all these books after. And, he was knighted, and, a lot of the great Buddhist spiritual teachers in India and Pakistan and stuff like that, denoted him as a spiritual avatar. And again, if you read his books, and I've read all of his books now, and I'm like a major student of his, like it's changed my life, like following his teachings. He is a real live spiritual avatar. He had Krishna, Jesus, like all of those influences are in his works. But anyway, his teachings it's threefold, Rex, and I know I just kind of changed topics on it, but this is great stuff. It doesn't matter your income level, your job, your mission, whatever you're doing in your life. If you do these three things, you will, as he calls it, reach a form of salvation in your physical incarnation, so that when you die, you're not coming back into the reincarnation wheel. And again, he writes about all of this. He decodes everything. I mean, it's so amazing. It's so up our alley of the things that we read about. But three things are: number one is you absolutely positively have to serve other people. Okay. In however you do and however you make money, whatever your mission is, it should be about serving others. Now, obviously, the goal is to serve others with peaceful, loving kindness and intention. But as long as you're serving others, you're on the path. The second thing is practice love. Okay. But not love as most people think love. Most people think love and they think romance and that. But love is a state of being. And love as a state of being is literally honoring all of life. And I know that's crazy, but like he likens it to not being able to step on a bug. You can't kill a fly. You can't step on a spider. You have to be, honoring animals, minerals, plants, everything. You have to respect and have this amazingly sacred reverence of life. And then the third one is, and this is the hardest one for sure. The third one is to practice forgiveness. And his, statement and his theories and beliefs and structured, ideology is even have to forgive your greatest enemies. right? So if somebody, a man cheats on your wife and you know that person, or someone kills someone or rapes your daughter or any of that stuff, the worst things you could possibly imagine, you have to be able to forgive them. So if you do those three things, if you, again, practice peaceful, loving kindness while serving others, you practice love as a state of being, you're loving of all and respect of all life. And then the third one is you're obviously forgiving. And part of number one is serving others with no attachment, by the way. I left that off, but you can't have an attachment. There cannot be an attachment to an outcome by serving other people. So if your job is whatever, and your attachment is like making money off of that, or, getting some materialistic, fancy thing, that's attachment. So you can't have attachment to serving others. You know what I mean? When you're serving others, whatever happens is okay. You can't be attached to an outcome. And then, again, forgiveness. But most people that I come into in my circle in my life now today, Rex, like the biggest issue for most people is forgiveness. And for me in my life, this is a perfect time to talk about this. Like, my ex-wife, and, I've been very open and forthcoming about the story on your show before. So everyone that watches your show with me or seen me knows my story, but she cheated on me with one of my good friends. And a lot of, and we're divorced now, and, I have two beautiful daughters from her, and we're amicable and everything. And Monica's really good with her and everything. And so my life is, totally changed and everything. But, 7 or 8 years ago, I confronted them. I broke down the guy's door and I found them in bed together. Now, thankfully they weren't having sex, but like something bad could have happened. Okay. And I chose to look the other way. And I feel like the spirit, God, whoever, creator of all, was kind of influencing me that I didn't like go nuts. Right. But then after that, I've had so many people, especially people in my inner circle and friends, say like, dude, why did you not take that dude out? Are you serious? And even to this day, I have so many people, because he's a friend of mine now, because I forgave him. Right. But so many people still to this day, like, are angry at me that I didn't do anything about it. That how can you be a friend with him? How can you forgive him? And so that's where the biggest issue to me in humanity is, Rex, is forgiveness. Most people cannot forgive the people that are quote unquote wrong them.
Forgiveness is good, man. And, that reminds me a lot of the overall theme that I've heard the past couple of days. And just as far as forgiveness, realizing that we're all in this together, and
Yes.
to do kind deeds to help others. And I think we'll close it out on that note, help others, ladies and gentlemen. If somebody is having a bad day, smile at them or something, just give them a genuine smile. It's amazing what that can do for somebody. And instead of saying, oh, that person's a Democrat, that person's a Republican, oh, that person's a fan of the opposite football team that I, like to watch because of the college I went to. Oh, that's, we're working in this together. Division is not good. It's, how do I put this? It's like, it's good to have two teams, right? It's good to compete. That's a good thing. That's making us stronger and working better. But to look at it as something bad, or in the fact that, we both need to be here to prove each other's existence, I think that's key. So this is great, Jay. I really appreciate you coming on the program. Folks, you need to check out totrevolution.com. Also check out Decoders of Truth, and that's on Facebook. So if you go to Facebook, type in Decoders of Truth, and it is it's a private membership. So, let them know why you're interested in becoming a Decoders of Truth member. There's a lot of good information in there that's just been compiled since Jay set this up. I mean, it went lightning fast on Facebook. If it wasn't a public group, it'd probably have 300,000 people on there. I mean, you get 3 million prints or 3 million imprints on Twitter a month, don't you?
Yeah. And by the way, again, Rex, I've always been very grateful to you for allowing me to come on and, share my knowledge and obviously, talk with you and be grateful and be gracious. And again, for all of your viewers, it's an honor to be here to let you guys listen to me and talk to me. And I'm very open about my works and my teachings and everything I do. If you want any of my books, I send them to you for free. Just send me an email. It's JAY@TRT, Tom Roger Tom Revolution. My website is TOT, but I haven't changed my web server on my email yet. But please just send me an email, TRT Revolution, J@TRTrevolution.com. I'd be happy to send you the PDFs of my books. And I also have, just for now too, we just built the PDF from my #1 selling book that I've ever written on the TOT Bible, which is the ultimate guide to a fully optimized life. I have a section in there called spiritual fitness, and we just created a PDF. So if you're watching this show and you want a copy of that, just again, email me and I'll be happy to send it to you. But it's an awesome awesome, probably like 12 pages of things you can do right now to completely change your game, regardless of where you are, regardless of your income level, you know, your fitness, your health, anywhere you find yourself in life, you start doing some of these things. It's like a collation of everything I've ever done and great mentors and spiritual guides have given me. It's just awesome. So I'll be happy to send it to you for free.
Right on, Jay. That's awesome. Much appreciated once again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Be excellent to each other and be the change you want to see.